All right, ladies and gents. As promised, doing a little bit of a um, educational, tactical talk, mainly terminology, and trying to blow the dust off some um, terms and explore, open up the meanings of certain buzzwords that people keep saying all the time. Why I'm doing that is because since the signing starts rolling in this year, and I observed it before in the previous season, see in the comments all the time, people start talking about things like, oh, this is very exciting. Now we have a bunch of creative players. Now we have so many midfielders. We will might be, playing with a double pivot, or we might try a 4-4-2 system, or like some other ridiculous things. And yeah, it's and it would be okay if they were just some of them, just average punters kind of thing, people who just talk to their friends and that's it. But a lot of the people I hear now, even on BBC and whatnot, they educating people about football, and the way they use certain terms and the way they describe certain things are, well, blatantly and bluntly incorrect. And they do not paint the picture. They do not do the justice, and they confuse people, and that leads to developing further confusion when people use incorrect terms and put incorrect meanings to incorrect words. Things that you say, they do matter. The way you say it, you have to, like I always say, you have to agree on terms. And I would like to go into, I guess, start with the notion of a creative player. Uh, in modern football, and let's talk about modern football because we're not here to discuss, Parky's world of 80s and 90s. We're going to talk about the modern football and the way it's developing. And it actually, a lot of the things they do transfer to other sports, team sports and individual sports. So modern football, when you talk about creativity and creative players, there is a bunch of things that come to mind, but the core is it's the ability of a player to maintain vision under pressure. So the higher the level of the game gets, the more pressure player receives at any given moment, in any given position, on any given part of pitch, in any different phase, or semi-phase, or quarter phase. There is so many things that we could go into, but if you manage to maintain your vision and situational awareness under pressure, this is one of the key elements that can make you a candidate for a name of a creative player. Second, I would formulate it as, well, nowadays everybody talks about XG and chance creations, but you have to be able to create chances. And that's it doesn't mean it's necessarily scoring chances as such, but we're talking about key movements of the game, key features. So can be passes, can be expected and unexpected assists, and it can be on any part of the pitch. So it's that vision to create a chance, sometimes and hopefully out of not much or nothing. Um, Element number three that will make you, again, more or less a creative player is what's called a line penetrating or line breaking passes. So the ability to cross. I'm sorry, 1 second. It's a work phone, so if I receive something, yeah, there you go, all good. So the ability to blend spaces, to use half spaces, and what's called breaking line with a pass or a movement of a body. So when you start moving opposition by changing your position on the pitch, it's a huge contributing factor to a build-up play usually. Uh, the last, well, yet not, there is quite a lot, but I'd say four. That's your four corners. It's ability of a player to, let's say, unlock or disrupt defensive blocks, or because not every team is playing in a defensive block as such, or can be disorganized shape. But it's the ability of a player to unlock, break that shape, whether it's disorganized or organized. And that is done not through just a flair as such, but through a result that is converted to a tangible attacking threat. And I think at that we should probably stop. I mean, that is enough. That is enough information to understand what a creative player actually is. So it's not somebody who is just of a higher speed, physical ability, and skill. That is not somebody who can just create a link-up play. Again, link-up play is a whole different conversation about what link-up play actually is. But that's a player who combines a lot of those factors. And if you guys are joining and you have any questions, please ask. So, for example, talking about a Wrexham tactical system, or I wouldn't even call it a system. Let's just start with a formation. So simple seating plan, 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, whichever you want to call it. We always had that problem of creative burden that lacks depth, that lacks ability to use those half spaces and flexibility in between phases of ball control and attack. With who we have signed, I don't see any major changes. Again, I have relatively limited knowledge on those players, but looking at just looked at some highlights, and quite often it's enough. You just look at the way players move around the pitch, the way they receive the ball, the way they give the pass, their body language, and the way where they're looking. You can kind of make a reasonably healthy assumption, but then again, you need to know who they're playing against and who they're playing with. That's important too. But I think Windass is the one who will add some creative opportunities and unpredictabilities, but everybody else is pretty much the same. Like I said during the podcast with Ruby, it's kind of one for one substitute. The other thing for us to keep in mind is that throughout the history of Parkinson coaching practice, the focus was always on direct play, set pieces, physicality, physical winning, physical duels, physical small battles on the football pitch. We know that the possession is often under 50%, particularly in the high pressure games, high stake games. It's observed through his time at Bolton, Sunderland, Bradford. It's the sort of similar traits. You got your directness, emphasis on shape in defense, verticality, and sort of rigid roles around the pitch. So we can safely say there is no meaningful reinvention for over a decade. His ways develop slowly and rarely become expensive. But so far, I see no. If you look at squad construction sort of logic, no signings and no signs within the preseason games and the last season games that suggest a shift in any way, shape, or form to another systems, or even formation. So let's talk about the difference between system and formation. Huge topic. It's just one of those things that if you listen to people talk and they throw those words around and they don't know what they're talking about, it just completely grinds your gears. So before we go into the definitions, we have to keep in mind, let's keep in mind that championship players, and especially defenders, they are way more tactically and operationally disciplined. goes without saying they're more athletic, so bigger, faster, stronger. Hence the predictability, ball loss, especially in certain areas, bypassing midfield. It will limit the team's ceiling, let's put it this way, unless you start layering up your approach. So you need to increase the variety on many, many levels. But we know that most likely nothing is going to change, and they'll stick to what has been going on over the last few years. So now talking about, my apologies, work phone going off. Now talking about formation and system. Golden rule, it's not the same thing. Formation, it's a static entity. It's a numerical arrangement. It's a shape on paper. It's a shape on the pitch of players, seating plan. All it can tell you, and not even today, it's not even necessarily true, but it's still more true than it's not. It tells you where the players start at the kickoff, first 5 seconds. Examples, 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 4-2-3-1. Think about it as I always think about it as a seating plan, seating chart in the classroom. You go into the classroom, you look at the plan, and you know where people sit, but you don't know how they're going to behave. You don't know those people. You just know where they're going to be sitting. Definition of a system is how team functions tactically and partially operationally. So basically what it is that how they move, how they pass, how they press, how they build up, how they behave in transition on various parts of the pitch, how they defend, how they rotate. It includes pressing triggers and zones, half spaces, build-up patterns, or lack of them, role interpretations. So when people throw those buzzwords like the inverted fullback, false nine, double pivot, box-to-box midfield, those are merely role interpretations. They can mean different things. Then we can go into defensive block type. So it can be low block, can be mid block, can be high press. Hey Scott, welcome back, buddy. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry, my fingers, because I just trying to read your comment. Movement in front of the creative player is so important. Good forwards tend to be good at this. Mullen was good at this and benefited when Cambridge having Houlihan as his creative supply. It'll be interesting to, I'm guessing you're saying, interesting to see what he gets on at Wigan. Yes, absolutely. And we'll touch about very good points there. I will talk about it's called a third person perspective, or a third person involvement, which is also incorporated into parts of the systematic setup. So we're going to talk about a very good point, and that's why Mullen was Mullen. So what I was talking about is, so your role interpretations, right? So we got your inverted fullbacks, we got your false nine, we got your box-to-box midfielders, we have inverted, sorry, I already said that. We have, keeps on bouncing for some reason. Hold on a second. There you go, let's do that. Yeah, now I should be able to see your comments at the same time. We have defensive block types. So defensive block types, obviously low block, mid block, high press, variation and hybrid version of those. Very important part within all that I just said is tempo and width control. So not to, I always say lateral movement of the team, and you watch my podcasts over the years. I know that sometimes I say things that people don't understand, because not because they're stupid, but because it's quite specific. Like we have to study this either in your own time or do courses and whatnot. Width control is extremely important, and it's not as simple as people. Oh, width control. The pitch is wide. You have to control the width and push players laterally to one side from another. No, there is more. There is a lot more to this than that. But let's just stop at that. It's width control. Ingrained into all this throughout is what's called a possession. They, in different schools, they call different names. It's either a possession principle or a possession structure, if I'm not mistaken. Just trying to remember. It's been a few years since I've done that, but I think most of the time people say, and professionals say, it's called the possession principles. So positional play within the zones on the pitch. Let's take a standard 18 zone model. So you got your chaos, you got your transitions, you got your use of half spaces, you got your zonal and individual defense, or upmarking, what's called. Spotting, another way of positional, another mean of positional play. To simplify it, I guess a system is it's like teaching a method, or even more so philosophy. So it defines how your players, your students in this case, how they learn and interact. So you know their seating plan, 4-4-2. That's where they stand or sit. Within seconds of the whistle nowadays, that's not relevant anymore, because the same formation can be played in hundreds of different systems. And I'm not even exaggerating. And systems are not static. They blend and they change, and depending on weak side, where the ball is and isn't, strong side, part of the pitch, phase of the game, they continuously change. So, for example, 3-5-2 formation, simplifying, can be played in a hoofball style system, counter press, which was done a lot. That's where that system, that's where the principle of 3-5-2 positioning actually came from. It's counter pressing because of the wingbacks and the ability of players to move up and down the pitch the entire length, creating great opportunity for counter pressing. It can be even used for tiki-taka. 4-3-3, for example, can be used for heavy possession, which is very compact and heavy triangle-based system based on continuous rotation of the players, either clockwise or counterclockwise, because usually it's a circular rotation. You're continuously creating triangles along the pivot point. So vantage point, pivot point, like a linchpin, and players usually going around. Then they also compress, and they, like breathing ball, they shrink and they expand. Guardiola is a good example. Or you can use 4-3-3 in a wide direct play system. Think Klopp back 10 years ago, say. My favorite system, one of my favorite systems, for example, is 4-2-3-1, 4-5-1. People call it. It can be anything, literally. It can be a low block, more of a reactive kind of a principle. It can be aggressively high press. It can be heavily flanking use system. You can have two teams in the exact same formation, but playing completely different football. Pick your own examples around the world. Going back to old and tried 4-4-2. For example, Milan under Sacchi, intense pressing, positional discipline. And then you have, I don't know, famous Leicester 4-4-2. Vardy on the break, deep, a lot of a lot of traps, spotting, quite compact if need be as well. So, sorry, just checking your comments. Nothing so far. Good. So yeah, there is just so many different ways that it can be played. The reason why confusion happens is because people are too lazy to actually understand the intricacies, because millions they are, and you actually have to start thinking about it rather than just saying the buzzword. So TV graphics, commercials, BBC, they show formation only, computer games. And it's just easy to show visually, right? But casual person, casual fan, they think that changing from 352 to 433 means it's a big tactical shift. Often it doesn't. Often it doesn't even matter. Like, I can tell you right now, if Parkinson was to tomorrow play 442 instead of 352 or 433, the game that we're going to see is not going to change at all, because the placement of the players on the pitch on their own, in fact, matters zero. It's hundreds of other layers that go with it. That's what matters. So system has to change for the formation, let's call formation, to actually take effect. 352, for example, on paper. Now, let's put it this way. Wrexham under Phil Parkinson, again, 352 on paper. Great counter-pressing formation, and a great formation for transition play, especially through the neutral zone. But with the way we do it, because there is no system, there is nothing behind it, people are improvising all the time. All the benefits of that formation that we have deep block, usually relatively compact as well. We have vertical ball progression, mainly, not even using the half spaces. People call them run channels. Channel is a completely different thing from just launching the ball forward into the empty space behind the defender. It's not a channel. Demand for aerial dominance and set piece domination. So basically what I'm trying to say, even if Parkinson would change to 4-3-3, for example, or any other thing, but the same principles stay in place, which I just described. So long balls, defensive shapes, verticality. The system would still be the same, even if the formation changed. It's just, that's what's going to happen. Formation tells you where the players stand. The system tells you how they play. Trying to simplify and make sure it's hitting the spot. Let's dismantle a little bit further, just trying to casual conflation of formation and system in modern football is quite a common occurrence. So you have to have the fundamentals of this literacy, of the football tactical and operational literacy. If you're going to discuss football even half seriously on basic punditry level, especially broadcasting online or on TV, you have to at least grasp the main principles of distinction. If you operating at a shallow, like low resolution level of not even understanding, it's not an understanding, it's parroting, it's copying effectively. Formation, it's a structural baseline. It's not a principle, not a philosophy, not a way of executing. Formation is it's a spinal skeleton, spinal arrangement of players at rest, and I highlight statically at rest. It's a descriptive picture, descriptive framework. Let's put it this way. That framework, that layout is not necessarily functional. So there is a big difference. The models can be functional in other industries, other worlds. They can be functional and non-functional. What we're talking about here is a non-functional model. Again, if you guys have any questions, please ask. So to highlight it, so it's not dynamic. It's not. It's two-dimensional. It's static in that frame shot, temporarily static. Let's call it temporarily static. You just by looking at the formation or saying, if somebody says like, you think we're going to change to this formation, you say nothing about role interpretations. You say nothing about role interpedencies. You say nothing about timings. There are a lot of different timings, for example, transition timings or timings on the ball, as per prescription of the coach, per defender. You have your, like in a deep engineered system, you have your timings on the ball. You have your intensity, be it attacking intensity, defensive intensity, transitional intensity. You have your possession sequencers. So possession sequencers are essentially an order of which each player receives possession of the ball as per design plan. So it's not just a hoof ball forward and win 50-50. Can be that, but also needs to be prepared for that. So you need to take certain steps, and obviously build up architecture. So your build up architecture is the key of the positive upward movement on the pitch. The system. So now we're moving from formation. We're moving to system. System is essentially a tactical and operational model. So it's a tactical dash operating model. Let's put it this way, or slash, whichever way you wanna cut it. The system refers to automatism. It refers to tactical scripts. It refers to role-based instructions and executions of those instructions, and timing of executions of those instructions. And overall, you base it all on a set of interconnected principles. They have to be interconnected for that to work. And the principles change depending on your personnel and the time they spend gelling with the rest of the team, working within the classroom and on the pitch, or combination of both. I need to get another drink, not alcoholic. How deep do I want to go there? Okay, let's talk about systems. To half an hour already. Okay, so let's highlight for now. Let's highlight five. Well, yeah, let's go with 5 phases of play. Okay, there can be more depending on the school, but we have in possession, transition to attack specifically, transmission to defense. You have what's called a rest defense, so static defense, effectively. It's let's put it this way: it's the shape that you hold prior to you counter attacking. It's like a launch platform for a rocket ship, Let's put it this way. And of course, out of possession. You have to be able, like most of the game you're going to play, most important is actually out of possession. So under that, your system will include vertical compactness. So vertical and horizontal some systems, some schools separate them, vertical compactness and horizontal compactness. But basically are you defending with a 15 to 20 yard block depth, or are you stretched into a 40-meter shape? And I'm quite often, you remember I was saying that I look at the way Wrexham playing, the proportional distances between players are off. So half of the team is playing 15-meter block. The other half, when there is no demand for it, is stretched way further. So once those proportions are ruined, that creates a lot of spaces, especially on the flanks. Probably not especially, but quite often. So on top of that, you have functional roles. So let's say if you're let's focus around a wing back or left back, whether it's a 4 at the back, 3 at the back, or combination. Could be up to 6 at the back, to be honest. Depends on the way you transitioning. So is your left back, for example, a traditional overlapper, or is he an inverted fullback and he can be stepping into what's called an auxiliary 6? From that comes the positional play. So positional play, are you I remember I was doing that test, is basically, are your interior players, or they call interiors, are they setting up triangles in zone 14, for example, or zone 12, or are they leaving the space? Are they vacating the space for momentarily overload? I know it's probably Chinese to a lot of people, but that's what's called talking basic tactics right now. Basic. From that, we're now going into press and triggers. Do you commit on a bad touch? Do you wait for a bounce? Do you wait on incorrect positioning of the opposition key defender when he's facing the wrong way, for example? Are you forced wide to isolate? Or are you actually trying to compress the opposition into one space? Let's put it this way. They're called intelligent pressing triggers, and they are variable, they are dynamic, and they take extremely long time to teach. Covered that. Did briefly speak about res defense, and I think that's we can probably we can talk about the systems that let's say they can be interpolated through different formations. Full 5-1 is one of them. That's why I love it so much. But no, let's not focus on that, because it's going to take me a long time. But anyway, the other thing that I'm just thinking what I need to explain is the role of automatics. So thought-automatic, automatic. Wrexham right now, for example, they play what's called the thought-automatic football. When by now, they should be playing automatic football. So automatism, they are pre-rehearsed chains of movements, not just movement, chains of movements. They are scripted. They have to be scripted. They're not reactive. You're not reinventing the wheel every game. They are scripted. It's what, remember I was saying a long time ago, you have to learn this. You have to learn the system. You have to learn the scripts, and then you start improvising within the system, within the scripts, and that's the ace level when that happens. So you script the behaviors that are embedded into that system. You learn them, and then you learn the triggers. So for example, placation of the ball, momentarily enters transitional shape of the opponent, whether it's static, whether it's moving, depending on the phase as well. Time on the ball, be it time on the ball of one of your own players, yourself, or the opposition, and where that ball is. From that, you will have what's called a third man run, and that's, Scott, what you were saying about Mullen, the engagement of the third man, because the possession, the possession-based automatism depends on the third person. It has nothing to do with the ball carrier. Possession play, creative play, fancy football, depends on the third man. So if you have third man variation in every third man option in every variation, you will maintain possession, because your pass can be anything from 20, 30 meters to 1 meter. So, but for that, the team needs to react. They need to close their eyes on the pitch, and they know exactly where everybody is. And they don't have to be an amazing players for that either. Actually, the more you drill, the more you stick to the systems, the less there is a demand for your individual skill level. You have to be smart, and you have to be very well drilled and trained, but the ability to run faster, further, and kick better doesn't really matter as much. It does further, but not necessarily at the start. So a lot of people talk about it when they bring an example of Pep. If I remember again, that was a case that we had to dissect. I think it was a pivot number 6. Receives the ball, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, there was the half space on the right, first third of the pitch. Then the RCB shifts either outwards or diagonally outwards, and the right back inverts. The right wing from there tucks into zone 14. 14 was it? Yeah, I think it was. There was a couple of options, but 14 was the best, and that's an example of systemic automation. So the formation remains static at this particular description that I just gave you, but the system evolves dynamically. Casual person, or not even casual, like the one who doesn't want to actually differentiate between system and information, that stares at 433, and they will not be able to comprehend exactly what they cannot understand what is actually happening at that phase, at that moment. Sorry, I just saw a comment pop up. The terms used in modern play, sadly, I have to go off now, early morning tomorrow. Good luck, Ivan. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate your engagement and your help. Keep on losing my train of thought about that. Yeah, we spoke about the automation. Okay, this segment, let's finish it with, I will come back probably, because there's so much more I can talk about, but the formation, this talk about the formation, it's a crutch. It is literally a crutch. For various reasons it can be used, but it's visually easy. So people look at the FIFA video games, Football Manager video games, they understand it. That's all they know. It doesn't require comprehension as such. So, it feels like analysis. So they look at that and they think that they are analyzing tactics and talking about tactics, but in fact, all they do, they labeling. They break it down into simple categories and they label it. That's pretty much all they do. The result is painfully low content within the commentary. They switched from 3-5-2 to 4-3-3 and looked more attacking And then they went to 4-4-2 and used the double pivot. It's a surface level correlation. So there is no causation, there is no cause and effect, there is no description of what changed in the spacings, there is no description of tempo transitioning. You literally said nothing. I can look at the screen and say, yeah, dots were here, now they over there. Deeper, take one extra step. That's why it takes a long time to actually dissect even a minute of the game if you're doing it properly. And that's the danger of being in a championship, because every team will be dissected down to milliseconds, and they will find patterns, optimization, or lack of it, automatics. By the end of 10 games, if you don't surprise, if you don't change and evolve, they know literally everything about everybody at every given second of the game. It's quite a full-on, thorough process. And for us, as people who are interested in football and other sports, because it correlates really well with other team sports, naming things correctly, and at least if you're gonna be talking about tactics, at least use the correct terms, because calling a system formation, it's like calling a legal doctrine a bullet point list. So you if you mislabel, you mislead effectively. Simplifying is okay. You got to simplify the problem. They teach you a lot of that in various schools. But when you are oversimplifying, you're blunting the edges of understanding. You don't give people the chance to actually scratch the surface and go that millimeter deeper. If you don't respect tactical terminology and you don't respect the linguistical importance of naming things correctly, you're talking about shadows on the wall. So it's not the light that casts the shadows. You talk about shadows, but you forget about the source, what actually causes the shadow. Yeah, I guess I bored you guys enough. So, in a nutshell, formation is a special skeleton, static. System is a dynamic, living, evolving set of intertwined, interlocking, connected tactical and operational behaviors. Formation is what it looks like. System is what it actually is. If I find more time today, I'll get back, because I want to talk about a few more things. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you soon.